Hello, I just wanted to share a brief update on a project that I'm starting. So on the FreeDOS YouTube channel here, I've done a lot of different videos about games that you can play on FreeDOS and applications you can run. I've also done a couple of programming how-to videos, and the response to that it's been very interesting, and people like seeing them, but they don't know programming, so it's kind of hard to follow. Not very useful. So I wanted to do a YouTube video series where I teach you how to do programming. And so that's what I'm starting up today. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to be teaching C. And so why am I teaching C? So really a couple of reasons. C is it's a pretty straightforward language. I think it's fairly easy to learn. There are not very many keywords, and once you get past those and know the syntax of the language, things like that, you can start writing programs right away. It doesn't take very long. C is also a very compact language and lets you write very compact programs. It lets you write very tight, efficient code. And that's an important thing if you're writing programs for FreeDOS, because FreeDOS has that limited memory model. And so being able to write very tight, efficient code is going to be important if you want to write programs for FreeDOS. And more importantly, a lot of people out there say that they want to learn programming languages, more programming languages. Maybe they want to go to school as a computer science student, or maybe they just want to learn more about computer programming. Well, if you learn C, it turns out that's a great launching off point for learning other computer programming languages, because a lot of other languages have picked up a lot of their syntax and things like that from C. So learning C gives you a great starting point to learn other programming languages like Go or Java. So what's the outline? What am I going to be teaching in this series? Well, it's over a couple of weeks, and about 10 weeks, and the first 4 weeks are going to look like this. So this is part one, an overview about what I'm going to be doing in the video series. Part two is an introduction to C programming, and so that's really, we're going to learn how to write programs. We're going to write a couple of sample programs as well. We're going to learn about the includes, we're going to learn about defines, we're going to learn about the main function, we're going to learn about the different data types and operators, and all kinds of different things to write a program. And in fact, during that time, we'll be writing, as I said, a couple of simple programs to kind of get used to what we're doing with programming. Part three, we're going to learn about flow control. So we're going to learn about the if statement, if else. We're going to learn about different ways to do loops, comparisons, functions, recursion. We're going to start writing some FreeDOS programs at that point. In fact, we're going to write our own version of the FreeDOS pause program, for example. In part four, we're going to step it up and we're going to learn about arrays. That's declared arrays. We're going to learn about pointers, and pointers allow us to do variable sized arrays. Now, just as a heads up, pointers tends to be an area that a lot of people kind of get tripped up on. So that might be a bit of a tough week. But once you understand arrays and how to use the arrays and the pointers, it makes life a lot easier for everything else down the line. Picking up from there, we're gonna learn about files. Now these are going to be simple input-output. This allows you to do a lot of stuff in C. But just to be clear, we're not going to be writing like a database program or things like that. We're not going to be doing like binary stuff like that. This is going to be like reading and writing text files, which is really what most of FreeDOS really needs to do. And so we're going to be reading and writing files. We're going to be learning how to write our own versions of some FreeDOS programs, like the type command, the more command, the copy command, things like that. Part six, we're going to learn what I can describe as sort of advanced programming. So the previous weeks we'll kind of keep it easy. We'll be using some simpler functions. And this one, we're going to actually step it up and actually learn more about performance. We're going to learn about how to use buffers. We're going to learn how to do realloc. And a bunch of other things in what I describe sort of the advanced programming. And then in parts 7 and 8, we're going to learn more about console programming. So in FreeDOS, or really any DOS system, that's really CON.io. And so that's what we're going to learn about there. It's a little introduction to CON.io programming. And then in parts 9 and 10, we're going to sort of put it all together, and we're going to take everything we've learned and write a couple of games, probably some larger programs like games. I'm thinking probably a couple of turn-based games just to kind of show off some of the things that we've learned. And all of these will be posted about once a week. The videos themselves will be free for anybody to watch, but there will be some things on Patreon that if you're a Patreon supporter, you'll be able to get access to some things that will help you to learn, like a forum to where you can ask questions. You'll have access to a programming guide with some sample source code that you can copy and paste onto your own system, things like that. So there's going to be a lot of extra bonus features, I guess you'd say. Now, what am I going to be using to do this? Well, it's all going to be done in FreeDOS. And so I'll be using FreeDOS 1.3 RC2. And here I've got a base install plus a couple of extra things. So I'll just kind of show you what I've got. So if I run fdimpls, you can see I've done a base install plus just a couple of extra things. Under development, I've installed the environment for DJGPP. And then I've also installed all the packages for the IA16 version of GCC. So those are the packages I've installed there, except for the source code. And so if you want to follow along, go ahead and install those packages. I'm using that because the compiler itself is kind of quiet. I also have OpenWatcom, and that's another great compiler that you might consider using. That one's going to be, I'll say, a little noisy. It generates a lot of text on the screen while it's compiling that isn't necessarily an error. And so I'll probably be using the IA16 version of GCC just because anything that it prints to the screen is going to be probably an error or a warning. Might be a little hard to spot that in OpenWatcom. But OpenWatcom is a great one to use. We might actually use that even for a couple of the programming examples that we use. And then under editors, I'm going to be using Fed as my editor. You can actually use any text editor to write your programs, but I'm going to use Fed mainly because it's kind of minimal. It doesn't have a lot of screen real estate being used by menus and things like that, and it also does, most importantly, it'll colorize the source code, which I think makes it a little bit easier to follow along with what's happening. So if that interests you, follow along on our YouTube channel, where I'll be posting these videos about once a week. And as I said, patrons get more. So support me on Patreon, and you'll have access to the programming guides, the sample source code, the forum where you can ask programming help, things like that. I'll still respond to some questions here, but just to be fair, I'm probably not going to be answering detailed questions on YouTube. I'll be answering more detailed questions on Patreon. Also, visit our website at freedos.org. Join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you.